welcome to 2021. 2020 was certainly a difficult year. It was an uncomfortable year. And my wish is that 2021 is a bit more predictable, a bit more relaxing, and that we can get this pressure of the unknown and the uncertainty out of the way. I think it's going to take time, but at least I think we're way ahead than we were 6 or 9 months ago. So let's hold thumbs, and let's hold thumbs it happens quickly. Katlego, welcome. This is the first time you join us on this discussion. So welcome and enjoy the ride.
Thank you, Theo. Certainly, as you've said, 2020 was a difficult year to us as advisors and clients. So your thoughts in terms of what happened on the market last year?
Yeah, I think, Katlego, unfortunately, 2020 was completely overtaken by the coronavirus and the COVID-19 illness or pandemic. So therefore, all other news were relegated. And that became the headline news. It became the news that dominated our behavior, that dominated markets' behavior, especially for the first 9 months of 2020. And it became the story of the year. Late in the year, we had the US elections, where President Trump lost the election. And he will, as of the midday US time, East Coast time, on the 20th of January at 12 o'clock, America will have a new president. But COVID was the only real story. And just to put it into context, and I'm going to take the Rand value or the Rand trading as an example. If you look back in January last year, an American, and I'm talking from an American point of view and the price of the Rand, if an American wanted to buy a Rand, it would have cost him 7 US cents. So the price of the Rand for an American was 7 US cents. That dropped in April to 5.2, 5.4 US cents. Now that drop was almost 30%. So that was part of when the markets, when the world was gripped in the first major lockdown. The value of the Rand from a US investor dropped from 7 US cents to just more than 5.2 US cents. It has since recovered, where it's now at 6.8 US cents. So therefore, it again ran up nearly 30%, but the net effect is about 4% down. And I think that shows the absolute volatility that we experience. And that volatility you saw in equity markets, you saw in bond markets, and you saw in the psyche of investors. And that was a very difficult year. So therefore, I have sympathy for advisors and specifically for the clients, the people whose money was in this roller coaster ride. And it was a difficult year. And unfortunately, it's difficult to predict, simply because this remains a biological problem that will not be solved by politicians or by bankers. This will be solved by the medical science fraternity. And that's why I think that's where we are going. So if I look back, there's only one thing. It's the COVID volatility, uncertainty, and the fact that we also got trapped into the cycle of fake news, of stories, of rumors. And it became very difficult to decide what you trust and what you don't trust, not only from market perspective or from market movements, but specifically around the whole biological vaccine, medical fraternity rumors that got, and I think some people started to believe, I can once say Dr. Google and Professor YouTube more than the real academics that's doing the work and the frontline workers that daily caring for this. So unfortunately, 2020 has one word all over it: COVID-19.
Certainly, Theo. And unfortunately, COVID-19 is still with us. And as you correctly said, we will have to wait for a solution from the medical fraternity. But looking into 2021, what are your thoughts, firstly, from a political perspective, and then from the perspective of financial markets?
Let's first go to the political situation, and I think the first point is that the world will realize is that on the 20th of January at 12 o'clock, the United States will have a new president. It will be the President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris era. Their 4 years that will start. The point is, I think they will spend a lot of time trying to unscramble some of the politics and the actions of the Trump administration, specifically rebuilding the relationships with the European Union, with NATO, with their friends and partners around the world. And I think that will have to come to the fore. I don't think it'll have a massive impact on South Africa or on Africa as a continent. I think there was always in the Trump administration the risk that at some point South Africa might get excluded from AGOA, which is our preferential trade agreement with America, and also that he had no real love or no real way of dealing with Africa. He referred to it in very derogatory terms, but there was no interest for him to support Africa whatever way. And usually the Democrats is a bit more lenient or a bit more friendly towards developing Africa and South Africa for that matter. Also, if you look since the Second World War, the economy in the US has actually performed better under Democratic presidents than under Republican presidents. Not by a big margin, but they usually perform better. But I don't think there's going to be a big difference. I don't think South Africa or Africa is a priority at this point in time. There's a lot of bigger things to address. If we look at the year ahead, let's look at the dates that we know when certain events are going to take place. First of all, in the first week of February, we'll have the opening of Parliament with the State of the Nation address. Now, the State of the Nation address is basically the president telling the country what the government's plan or program is for the rest of the year. So therefore, he'll spell out the priorities, action plans, and what needs to be done for the year. Then at the last week of February, we have the Minister of Finance, Theo delivering his budget. Now, we know that government's finances is in a shocking state. The economy is not really growing, and there's a massive hole that needs to be filled. So we will get clarity on what government aims to do. The point there is government's coffers are really not where they budgeted for, and there's a hole that needs to be fixed, and we will see the plans going forward, how that will happen. Then we will have in about August at the latest, perhaps September, we'll have the municipal elections or the local elections. Now remember, last time we had these elections, the ruling party lost some of the major metros. In effect, Johannesburg and Tshwane, Johannesburg and Pretoria were lost. So was the Nelson Mandela Metropole. Obviously, we will have to see how the ANC does in those elections. And then we will also see if there's smaller parties coming to the fore, like in the Gauteng area, to what extent Mr. Herman Mashaba's Action SA is going to get traction, and to what extent the opposition parties will gain support. But there's one massive element right in the middle of this that could change the whole trajectory of that, and that is the Zondo Commission's report. Now, initially that report was, or the timeline was that report will be delivered very early in the second quarter to the president. It seems that Judge Zondo is going to ask for a few months postponement. So that report will most likely land on the president's desk in the middle of the year. And then he will have to decide what he's going to do with that report. My view is that report he will probably have to make it public, simply because of the public interest in this process. But why it's important is that report could have a major impact on certain individuals, not only within the ruling party, but certain individuals in senior positions as to where and how they were involved in state capture. And it'll be interesting to see how the prosecuting authorities act on that. But that report could be a major game breaker. It could change any prediction going forward. It could change any plans going forward. And I think if I read through some of the comments that we all became aware of in the last few years as Judge Zondo was busy, It's going to be interesting to see what his conclusions are. Remember, he's got a lot more information than purely what was shown on television. He's got a staff of probably not far over 100. He's got, we only saw the tip of the iceberg in terms of what was televised. There was massive work behind the scenes, and that will all be included in his report. So that could be a game breaker in terms of changing the whole profile. So that's a bit about the politics going forward. At this point in time, I think what is important is that, unfortunately, I don't see any other political party really challenging the ANC, and I also don't really foresee a change in the ANC. What I left out is in the middle of the year somewhere, there'll be the African National Congress's General Council. Remember, that is not a leadership conference, it is a policy conference, and that policy conference might be utilized by some of the factions that's anti-Cyril Ramaphosa to destabilize it. There was a story that from the floor they're going to try to hold him accountable for not implementing the Nasrec decisions. And the three decisions that they're probably going to try to hold him responsible for is the fact that the property, or the whole thing about property and redistribution was not addressed properly. And I think that is the one aspect they might put pressure on him. They also might put pressure on him the fact that there was no move in terms of nationalizing the Reserve Bank, and also nothing done in terms of prescribed assets for pension funds. So those are three decisions that they might put pressure on him, but it's not an elective conference. It is purely a policy conference. So that's the political environment, and that's how the year will pan out. From an economic point of view, it will all depend on how effectively not only South Africa, but the world deals with COVID. And the critical element at this point there will be to what extent the whole vaccine process is rolled out, how successful it is, and when are the world going to get back into some kind of normality or some kind of way of doing business without having this fear of lockdown and the pandemic around us. So I think from an economic point of view, yes, we are seeing very nice signs in terms of our exports. The president has got massive amounts of infrastructure plans in place. And yes, we are seeing things like the agricultural sector really doing well. We are seeing that the drop in the economy wasn't as bad as everybody expected. Company results are actually not looking that bad. And we're also seeing that companies have restructured themselves. So I believe that we're going to see better than expected economic numbers. We're going to see better than expected company results, which means that the South African market might have a cyclical upturn simply because companies cut out massive amount of costs, and any upturn will greatly assist them. So that is kind of where I think we are going. The key element, again, will be just like 2020. This time it will be how successful is the rollout of vaccines, and how successful is the medical fraternity taking this fear or the impact that COVID has on our lives out of us.
So from an advice point of view, just a reminder to clients to stick to their financial plans and their investment strategies. These plans are designed with what we call the asset allocation, and that is designed with all different types of market outcomes in mind. And diversification is key. But yeah, for clients to stick to their plans, stay the course. And also just a reminder in terms of for clients that need to top up their retirement annuities, the tax year end is coming up soon, and those retirement annuity top-ups needs to happen before the 15th of February 2021. So for clients to get in touch with their advisors and discuss those retirement annuity top-ups. And lastly, for clients that are underweight in the offshore exposure, the rand is fairly strong at the moment. So now is a good time to increase that offshore exposure where needed. So again, clients need to contact their advisors and discuss how and when they can take some money offshore. But from an advice perspective, that's it from me, Theo.
Yeah, I think just in terms of the international exposure, remember the R1 million so-called travel allowance or discretionary allowance, that runs in calendar years. So that as of the 1st of January this year, you can take out another R1 million under that dispensation. So just note that that is a calendar year dispensation. But yes, I think, Katlego, thank you very much. I fully agree with you. The plans and the strategy is designed, is reviewed specifically to take into consideration possible volatility, to take into consideration the risk. And given the fact that markets have had a volatile year and that we might be slowly working our way out of this, that's specifically how portfolios were structured. So I agree with you. Stick to your strategy. It's a lot more important to stick to your strategy than trying to make predictions and time the market. But let's hope that, Katlego, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed it. And to all our clients, all our staff, and everybody looking at this recording, I wish you all a 2021 that's better than 2020. And I wish you all the courage and the strength to stay the course, and hopefully as the year progresses, it'll leave us all in a more comfortable and a better position. So from my point of view, all the best, and we talk in the months to come again. Then just for all the Afrikaans-speaking clients, I'm doing a short sakegesprek mini-series, 'n mini-reeks sakegesprek. Dit begin komende maandag die 11de op Kyknet 9:30, dis 4 programme. Ek praat weer eens met van wat ek reken is die beste rasionele onafhanklike ekonome in Suid-Afrika, van die grootste en ek reken die mees rasionele fondsbestuurders en ook met 'n paar politieke analiste. So in hierdie 4 programme wat maandag, dinsdag, woensdag en donderdag aand 9:30 op Kyknet is, gaan ons juis kyk na die jaar vorentoe, beide van kom ons sê van 'n tegnologiepunt, van 'n ekonomiese punt, van 'n finansiële marktepunt en dan ook van 'n politieke uitkomstepunt. So as jy graag wil kyk, onthou komende maandag, dinsdag, woensdag en donderdag 9:30 op Kyknet.